Hey, how's it going, everybody? Finally got a pickup vid for you guys, and sorry it's been a while. I've been fighting a ton of chronic pain from getting headaches and just my back, my neck, everything. And we've been having a lot of wind, so allergies have been kicking my ass, dude. Where I got a whole bunch of sinus crap in my neck that I finally got rid of, so it hasn't been fun. So that's why I haven't been on here. Can't sit in one spot too long. So that's why I'm just going to show you guys the Goodwill blaster that I got. Anyways, before I show it to you guys, I did have to open it up in order to get the tape player working properly, which on that I think I just got lucky. Is the way they built this thing on the switches and everything, kind of hard to get at to spray and clean. So that's pretty much all I did was give it a good cleaning. And this one for the motor inside of it that turns everything for playing a tape, it's rather large, so it's kind of right there in plain sight. I sprayed it down a bit, just on the little piston thing that sticks out of it that rotates, and that was enough to free it up to where it plays beautifully now. The day that I messed with it, I got it to where it was working really good and just kept playing tapes off and on all day, and it did great. So sometimes it's all it takes is a bit of cleaning, as I think it was really gunked up bad to where the motor was a little froze, because what would happen is I'd stick in a tape, and no matter if I pressed play or fast forward or rewind, it would act like the tape was already finished and do the auto shut off even without a tape. So something was screwy in there, and I was able to free it up. So anyways, easy enough, other than, man, some of the screws on this thing towards the center of it, really freaking deep screw holes. We're talking like this, to where I had to go and buy myself a screwdriver that was long enough to get in there. Hence, unless it's the little electronic screwdrivers that are all metal, they usually comes in a little plastic tray. Those are the only ones worth picking up at a dollar store. The ones I got, it was one that was really long and skinny for a Phillips, and then kind of like the next one down, and a couple of snubbies to where it's only this long for Phillips and flathead. Anyways, the one that I had to use, the blades on it for the Phillips part were so freaking thin, and I wasn't fighting with this that much to take the screws out. It was easy enough. It literally bent some of them. So you get what you pay for, but at least for $1, I was able to get this thing working. So worth it long run. So for anybody that's not watching this on YouTube, read off the model for this one. It's a Montgomery Ward, model number GEN3992. And on the year this was made, I'm going to say early 80s. Like they were just starting to add on little extra things like the loudness and whatnot before they just had knobs and whatnot for it. There's no equalizer on it. It's just got a loudness button, and then it's got another button that just says stereo wide. It's almost like maybe a simulated surround sound. It does make it sound better, especially if you have an old tape to where it was recorded on a low level. It definitely adds to the volume. One thing on this boombox, it freaking kicks for a Montgomery Ward's boombox. I barely turn it up and it is booming, especially with the loudness and stuff. And cranked all the way up with the loudness and everything turned on, this one almost sounds good, which is surprising because a lot of the ones that I had back in the 80s, you cranked that thing with the bass turned up or anything, and it sounded like shit. The speakers were never strong enough for what the radio puts out. So they did good on this one. So show it to you guys here. Pretty good size. And on the cassette player here, instead of having the usual push buttons where you are giving the momentum to lift everything inside of it, Like by pressing play or whatever, you're putting the tension on the mechanism to raise it up and play the tape. This, it's all electronic. You press the button and it electronically raises up the mechanism. I think that might have been froze up a bit too before I cleaned it. So anyway, it's all the functions for the tape there. And read it here. It's got stop, play, record, rewind, fast forward, and pause. It's full automatic stop, which works, obviously. The mechanical logic control system. And then you got your recording output levels on top and your counter, and then it's got a record light, or if your batteries are dying, the light comes on, turns red. And then right there is your reject, which is in a weird spot. And on top, they're the slide type switches, which, like I said, those are hard to clean. I thought they might be open-ended when I got inside this thing, and they're not, so I think I just got lucky to where enough fluid got in to clean them up, as it was giving a bit of static when I turned the volume up and down, so it's a lot better now. Otherwise, on those push-button ones, it's radio on, cassette on, radio off, and then this mode button, which is just wide stereo, beat cancel, and then loudness. Do have a switch for tone, but not one for bass. Your balance and volume, and then your band selector, which is FM stereo, FM or AM, and your tuning dial. And the little tuner needle in there has a red LED in it, so it lights up, which is pretty cool. Microphone here on each side, I believe, either that or they're tweeters, because it does have a place to plug in microphones, so those might be tweeters, or maybe these are, I don't know. I've been trying to find a place where I could download an original manual for it, and I haven't had any success. On the side here, plug-ins for left and right microphone. You can plug in an auxiliary thing, but there's no switch on it anywhere for auxiliary. They're expecting you to be recording off of either the tape or the radio, so you have to have the play button on the tape going without a tape in order to run an MP3 player, record player, whatever through this. And that does work. And then old school style headphone jack, one of the large ones, which tells me this is early. And then below that has it to where you could add in a couple of extra speakers, which are Walkman jack style for like headphone. And the other side, I thought maybe one of these was an extra power source to plug in to power the extra speakers, but it's not. It's just giving you a second choice, which is the usual one like this. Same type you'd have for like a PlayStation or whatever, but rounded, so you don't want to lose this. But if you do, it's got it to where you can use just a more modern type power supply, like what you'd have for your Nintendo or whatever, one of those types. Which, yeah, negative to the center, positive to the outside, and it's DC 12 to 14 volts it can handle. So like I say, before I took it apart, I thought that was like an extra thing for the speakers, because why would they have two separate power sources? Anyways, on that, one thing that I noticed when I opened it up, which is good, if you could find one to where you had to replace the internal power supply, it is separate from the circuit board. It was stuck to the back of it in its own little spot to where you can just unscrew it, swap it out for a new one. And then it just had a couple wires coming off of it going to the circuit board, which you can also unplug. On unplugging those wires, if you guys ever find one of these, careful, really be careful on opening it up. It gives you just enough room, hence the wires, to where you can get your hand in there and separate stuff, which the ones on the power supply and the antenna, they're not the flat type posts where you just slip the thing over it. They're like a round post, and those can be a pain in the ass sometimes to detach, and I didn't want to force anything and break it, but I was able to get the one to unplug for the antenna, And then the other two, like I say, are off to the opposite side, but they give just enough slack to where I can open it up like a book and just set it on a table and be able to look at everything inside of it and give it a good cleaning. Otherwise, normally you'd be able to separate this whole back piece. On batteries, oh shit, yeah, this thing's old. It is a freaking battery hog, like a lot of these Boombox / Ghetto Blasters were. Takes 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 D-cell batteries to power this sucker if you want to go out on the beach or whatever. I had one like that, which was one of my first boom boxes, and same thing, man. It took a ton of friggin' batteries, and it was really old school. Instead of the lit up type meters that are more modern, it literally had the little needles that went back and forth. It was really cool. I can't remember what brand it was, man. It was just a cool old boom box. So, the volume turned all the way down. This program, I don't know if it's feedback I'm getting or if it's the program or what, but I had it screw up on me once, so bear with me if it sounds like shit on your end. It sounds good on my end, but it was like some distortion I was getting, so I don't know if it's the microphone on this Apple computer or this program screwing up, but it did that once to where it just sounded really weird, and I didn't have it turned up all that loud, so I'm going to put it up on 1, which, like all radios, it's 1 to 10 on your volume. This thing, I put it on 3 and it's kicking. Got some old school Van Halen in here. In fact, this is their first tape, album, whatever. Good, it's going. I believe in Murphy's Law, man. If you're going to show it to somebody, that's when it's going to break again and make you look like a total freaking fat, bloated fool. So, there we go. That's just on volume level 1. With none of the buttons pressed for loudness. Now I'll turn on just the loudness and put it back on 1. Nice deep bass. Now I'll show you this wide stereo or stereo wide or whatever the hell. Kind of adds more tone to it and spreads it out, but it definitely makes it a little louder. And I'll have that with the loudness. You can see the volume meters for the power level are already going, and that's just on 1. I get it on about 4 or 5, and they're almost going full. Like maybe when you hook up extra speakers to this, it spreads it out more on the power output. Man, it is just surprisingly nice for something from Montgomery Ward's. And the fact that it's still working. I did see a rubber band in it, which a lot of times it kills these on the tape player. That snaps, and then you got to find one that will fit, which good luck on that. That's what killed a lot of my old boom boxes back in the 80s and 90s. So anyways, this is where I gotta have a rant. I did get this for a good price, but I gotta give a rant because their prices are just freaking crazy at my store. I got this at my local Goodwill for 13 bucks for a vintage Ghetto Blaster that friggin' works. When my store first opened up, the second time I went, they had one like this, a little bit smaller, and I think it was a Panasonic, possibly. Anyways, the hinges on the sides of this, one of them had broken off to where this was literally hanging for its life. And I think the spring was still in there or whatever. But the hinge, they just stuck it in the battery compartment. So until you glue that, you had no clue if it would play a tape or not. And I think the radio worked on it. Like I say, smaller, yeah, it was a Panasonic, but they wanted $30 on that damn thing for something that was broken. And then other times, I'll see just more of the aerobics class type little boom boxes when they started really shrinking them down, which some of those, if you can find the 80s ones, they're worth picking up. It's just the little radios that you'd have for jazzercising, like you're going to see this fat bastard jazzercise. If I do, man, that's why you're seeing the numbers go up on the Richter scale. Anyways, those can be valuable if you get the right ones. Otherwise, the newer ones from the 90s, nah, man, they're crap. They'll get a lot of those and they'll be like $750. I mean, the prices just go up and down. Like some stuff, they'll see it as a vintage item, so they got to jack the price up even if it's in bad shape. So for you guys that are complaining about your Goodwills, man, mine is just as crazy. I think it's whoever runs Goodwill now, outright, the higher mammals, they're getting weird to where, this is my store, a lot of the damn stuff, literally, they are wanting outright retail prices for stuff that was donated. Where, what happened to the whole thrift store thing? This is stuff that's donated. They didn't pay for any of this stuff. It's donated by us, and they're making a killing on it. The only time I see my Goodwill store packed with people is when they're having their half off on a Saturday. Otherwise, sometimes they'll have their little percentage off, or like you guys, they'll have their stickers to where if you can find one with the right color, it's like 50 cents off. Or I mean 50% off. But good luck. Every time lately that I'll ask, what's the color for the day? It's like, nope, you're not going to find hardly anywhere in the store. And usually if you do, it's going to be like clothing or bedding or whatever. Never anything like this. So, hard to catch them slipping on stuff. Which, my next vid, which definitely will be longer, is I've mostly been looking out on toys and just older electronics type things, games, whatnot. Not really much on video games. Video games, every time I find something old school, they make me sick. The last thing I saw there, oh man, I wanted it because I don't have it in my collection. It was for Sega Genesis in the box, just missing the instruction manual, but it was in good shape. It was a Battletoads Double Dragon or whatever. They wanted 15 friggin' bucks at a thrift store for something that, yeah, it looked clean, but there's still a chance it may not work if somebody fried the game or whatever. And then previous, I saw some NES carts. They were $5 and up. And the ones for $5 were the ones that were beat up or the labels were all tore up or just whatever, man. So no guarantee that they'd work. And then the most expensive ones is anything clean that looked good, around $15. It's crazy. And I'm in a small city. Kingman is not that big. It is a really small friggin' city in Arizona. So if you still have a Goodwill to where the prices are good, man, enjoy it while it lasts, because I have a feeling it's going to be all of them pretty soon. Since they're pulling all this corporate crap to where they're trying to turn it on full retail. And they do look up stuff on eBay. It's pretty obvious on that to where they'll jack the price up because they saw some jackass on eBay that's wanting a ton of money and it's like, oh, this is what it's worth. So there's my rant. Hope you guys enjoyed the vid. Like I said, man, I'll have one up soon enough as I have caught them slipping on some toys. Hint, hint, I found a couple of Star Wars 70s figures for dirt friggin' cheap. Whoever packaged them didn't recognize that they were originals, so lucked out. Gotta look out sometimes. Catch y'all later.